right, we are at 5 after. Uh, the I guess remember to sign in, and do we have any new faces? Sambhav, I don't know if we've
Yeah, hi.
before.
I'm Sambhav. I work at Bloomberg. I've recently been trying to introduce Buildpacks as a way to build applications inside Bloomberg. Um, so I'm part of the machine learning platform team in Bloomberg, and yeah, uh, just observing.
Got it. The Thursday meetings are usually, or I think everybody's kind of centered around showing up on Wednesday. We have 20 or 30 people, and then everybody feels like that's enough for the week. So we're probably going to figure out that's the next
I'm in
topic.
London, so I think this is already a bit late. So I just wanted to just observe. But I think on Wednesdays that it's at 8 p.m. on London for London. So yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. Hopefully we can. I think there's an idea to maybe split this one up into some smaller things, and hopefully can kind of move those more distributed so it's easier to for people in different time zones to attend. But I'll see. All right. The next thing we have is it's just what I was talking about, Thursday meeting attendance. Do we feel like it might make sense to start, breaking this into some subject interest groups or something? Because it seems like we get a whole lot of people, 5 companies, 30 people or whatever on Wednesdays, but the second hour a week has gotten kind of dull for the last couple of weeks.
So what's the proposal here for that you're suggesting? I know I mentioned in the past that we were thinking about doing the different sub teams as actual like working groups. I know Ben was going to create an RFC because I think part of the conversation is around, like what does that mean for RFCs specifically, right? I think we're all on board with the idea of more conversations happening at the sub-team working groups, and less happening, as a big group here, especially, kind of to recoup some time from Thursday. But ultimately, I wonder if it's worth, if what you're suggesting is to move to using the working group, or sorry, the sub-team stuff to kind of take on some of the Thursday stuff. And does that mean that Thursday just goes away?
We could do that. I wasn't sure if we felt like the existing, sub-team sync meetings were sufficient to replace, the other hour yet, or if we needed more different formats, something like that. If we feel like Wednesday, really, I just wanted to. I don't want to waste another hour of people's time every week if not too many people show up, and then we, it's not useful. I wasn't a specific proposal I had.
Yeah, I guess the flip side is it's also hard to just schedule stuff with people. So
Really low,
hesitant.
Terrence.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
A little bit, yeah.
I'm worried about trying to schedule stuff if we just give up the slot, because I know it's been a pain to get stuff on. I know, like Steven's calendar historically, for instance.
I wonder if, or do we have good attendance at the other sub-team meetings, or could we use this slot as assuming that we have some calendar space on people's calendars, and move the poorly attended ones around? I don't know.
What if this should be like more like an office hours, where like it defaults to just being on the calendar and people can meet if there's something to meet about. It's set up in either Slack or previous attendance. I mean, you could run into conflicts, but unlikely.
That seems like a really good iteration from where we are now. And then if no one ever goes to the office hours, that's fine. Or like we can cancel it eventually, or we can repurpose the time when we need to use it again. I like that a lot.
So I guess from, when we describe office hours, what do we mean? Like, how would we summarize what office hours means to us? Is it people coming in with questions, or something different?
Say more question oriented instead of presenting oriented, right? Like probably wouldn't be a time when people present RFCs, but it might be a time when somebody comes to get feedback on an RFC. It could get a lot more specific than the Wednesday ones, right? Or it could be a place where we take those, really deep divey conversations. It's like, or those could be more acceptable on Thursdays than Wednesdays, something like that.
Cool. And then maybe we could preface it with, it may be canceled if there's nothing on the agenda beforehand, right? No questions.
Sure. Or people could just show up, and if nothing looks, if no one's really there, they could just drop off, right? There wouldn't be any kind of motivation to stay.
Cool. I like that.
Is there any, I guess, need to have somebody or some group of people volunteer to at least show up? Because otherwise you might have someone, let's say, wanting to engage with the community and nobody comes, right? Like, at least you have one person who says, okay, I am involved with C&Bs and I can be the person to hear your question and respond to it.
It seems like it'd be a good idea. I think if we change the documentation in the community repo to indicate that it's an office hours time and kind of, attendance is very optional, that would also go at least somewhat towards making sure that people in the community who show up and are expecting a working group meeting don't, aren't surprised by kind of lower attendance thing. So I definitely agree that the goal is important.
I wonder if we can Zoom have like a landing page when people show up or anything with any of that info or not. I don't know how Zoom works. But if it had like a, ping in Slack, if no one's here in a few minutes, like, see if anyone questions, see who shows up.
It seems like it'd be a really good feature.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, maybe someone wants to do some research on that. I guess the other concern that I have, maybe basing it off of Natalie's feedback, is that, let's say I show up, but it's like a question that's like way either in the weeds of something that I'm not, aware of or something like that. I'd be concerned that I'm not the right person for that. And so I think that's why I really like the idea of having the questions like pre-mentioned or noted, so that way we have the right people there to support them.
I think by the Linux Foundation antitrust statement thing, we're supposed to have an agenda coming into any meeting anyways. I think even if it's like an office hours type meeting, that's better practice. And so like, I think we should still encourage people to put stuff on the agenda ahead of time if they plan to talk about it, even if they just plan to talk about it informally in the office hours kind of format instead. So agree.
All right. What are the next steps? I guess if we wanted to try this.
Wait for Wednesday and then propose with a larger group. We make the Thursday meetings, office hour meetings next week, and make sure everybody's okay with it.
All right, sounds good. I guess, do we want to add it to the agenda for Wednesday?
Good idea. Or future topics.
Yeah.
We might also want to re-advertise the existence of the sub-team syncs. And I mean, I know it's on the page, a page somewhere, but just so that everyone's aware.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed other projects doing is that they'll send out a reminder on the Slack channel. And since we already have Slack channels for all the appropriate subteams, like that could be a really good place to set a reminder that a certain sync meeting is happening. Natalie, you're the, would you mind setting those up
Yeah.
for our Slack stuff?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. You're the master slacker. That sounds terrible.
Cool. Anything else on Thursday meeting attendance? then home versus CNB after.
I put this on there. This came from someone at Heroku who works on kind of the V2 stuff, and we were looking at changing, because right now on the Heroku side for our V2 Buildpacks, apps are built in a different directory, and we were trying to change it to be the same directory, because that helps align it with kind of the CMB spec. And so as we make changes, he had a question around under the CMB platform spec, whether home and CMB after should be the same. This came up, I think, in the CMB shim build pack we also have for adapting the V2 build packs to run in a V3 environment. And so some of the concerns around that are, I guess, around like secrets and privacy, around home and whatnot. And depending on the platform, whether the fact that we don't specify what a home should be set to, but it's set by the stack, right? Today. So that could have wildly different, I guess, things depending on if a build pack decides to use that environment variable.
I thought the spec said explicitly that they cannot be, that CNB after and home have to be different. Like home can't be included in CNB after. I thought there was something in the spec that said that because of the like, like if you have a Docker daemon mounted into some place, you could copy your Docker credentials into it, or your language module cache.
Is that actually in the spec? I was
thought it
looking. I
was,
don't know
but
if I found it. I know we talked about it at one point, but I couldn't find it when we were.
Let me. I thought maybe it was in the build pack spec though. It says the following environment variables must not be overridden by the lifecycle and are provided by the platform home.
Yes.
But maybe it
Which I
doesn't
think,
say. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it could be different on different platforms as well could mean build packs behave differently if they're actually expecting it coming from V2, I guess, where people were probably using home. Because obviously CMB after did not exist for V2. And I guess this was linked to another issue, or an issue from the CMB shim build pack, where DigitalOcean opened a thing because they've been trying to use some of our, I guess, V2 build packs inside of CMB for stuff, and ran into this issue as well for, I think, PHP. I can post that in here. But here's the PR on that. And they were trying to set it to be the same for compatibility, which then referenced, I think, this particular thing that Ed opened on the Buildpack spec project.
Makes sense. I would support adding something to our spec saying that they can't be the same, or that the home directory can't be included within the CNB after path or workspace path, or whatever names we have for it now.
Is that Buildpack API, platform API, both?
Platform maybe. This comes into what
Ozzy
came up
was
with the
saying?
last one. Yeah, Ozzy was saying it's like platform API.
This one's even weirder because home is set by the stack authors, which are not either of those audiences.
Yeah.
So now you're not a valid builder, which isn't a spec. If you, I don't know, it's weird though because the platform sets after, you could be a valid builder on one but not on the other if they end up like resolving to the same place, right?
Yeah. Motivate having a stack spec that's separate by insisting that this go into that instead. I don't know.
Cool. Do you want to comment on that issue, Stephen?
Sure. I think Emily already said what I would say there, which is that, she says I could see an argument for explicitly forbidding the value of home on the stack image to match C and B after. But I can +1 that and add something else too.
Yeah. And then do we need to, I guess, figure out how to update that in the spec?
Does this need to be an RFC?
I don't know. If it is, I can write it.
It was intent that we had at the beginning, right? It
Yeah, it
never
was an
got
intent,
reflected
but it's not in
exactly.
there.
Yeah.
I couldn't
don't
find
have
it
a
in the
strong
spec
opinion.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It's not in there. But I don't have a strong opinion over whether it's an RFC or not. I would approve the spec clarification.
Yeah, I guess
either
the hard
way.
part is just like I don't even know in the spec clarification where it should be. So maybe the RFC is just cleaner of the extent that you don't have to figure out where in the spec it belongs initially.
Yeah, I think it would have to go into the platform spec until we refactor. But either way, whatever you think.
Okay.
Yeah, platform seems right because at least Lifecycle could validate it, like at the beginning of its stuff, and then from there figure out where it needs to be replicated for the other specs.
Change platform to lifecycle spec.
Well, I think
That
we
was
need a
Ozzy's
platform.
suggestion.
Yeah, I think we need a life cycle spec and a stack spec, and maybe we need a platform spec, but I'm not sure.
We just need to get Ozzy to help us write it, right?
Exactly right.
that's-
He has to. That's the big thing. He's gotta do all the PRs for everything because he's not here. I can say that.
Cool. That's all I had on that. I just wanted to, I guess, get more eyes and clarification on it.
Next question I see is what Go library is recommended, supported, and in what sense for creating build packs?
Yeah, this was something that I put in. So, like currently for prototypes, we have a couple of build packs implemented in Bash, but I would like to have something that's better tested, and it seemed easier to do that in Go. But the next question I had was like, which of these libraries is recommended / supported by the Buildpacks organization? So I know libcnb is the official non-opinionated binding, but that lacks quite a few convenience tooling around interacting with the with the API itself. So I found these two other things in the Paquito Buildpacks organization. I'm not sure what the relation of that organization is with cloud native Buildpacks, but like if it is related, which of these two are recommended?
Got it. So just for some background on the different projects, Cloud Unit Build Packs is in a CNCF, and it's just intended to define what's the build pack API and provide tools for platforms to be able to implement running build packs. Then there are different sets of build packs that meet they're maybe tailored towards specific companies or projects, customer and user requirements. So like Heroku has a set of build packs, Google has a set of build packs. Paquito it's actually in the Linux Foundation like the CNCF is, but it's under the Cloud Foundry Foundation, and it's mostly VMware people who work on that project. And so it's just like, for instance, Paquito is like really modular and maybe a little more operator centric in some ways. And the Heroku build packs are very, kind of build on top of what Heroku's done in the past. I shouldn't talk about them. Terrence can give a better description. So they're just different, implementations of the build logic, for different language runtimes and things like that. So libpack and packet are both ones in the Paquito project, and the official advice I should probably give you there is join the Paquito working group meeting and ask them about what the difference is. But I can give you a overview. Packet does kind of combines libcnb and libpack. It's like more of, at least last time I checked, it was more of one library that did both of those things, and it was used by the largely the non-Java ones, and then libpack and libcnb are used more by the Java Paquito build packs. I think just different developers built different libraries to kind of work against the API. So there's a whole different Slack for Pacato you could join if you're interested in those libraries. Slack.pacato.io to sign up. I'll send it in the Zoom. And those folks, they also have a weekly working group meeting, and you could really ask them about the details of those two libraries if you wanted to, and they'd be able to give you a good description.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
I guess somewhat related, but maybe not exactly. What's the status and future of Packfile?
Oh yeah, I'm still working on that. Sort of about packfile.io. I don't know. I might change the name because it sounds too much like a Git packfile. It's still just a project in my personal GitHub. It's been a little while since I've had a chance to update it. It works. It's fully functional. It's missing a ton of tests, but besides that, like, try it out and let me know what you think. I have some example Buildpack templates in different languages there. There's nothing really missing. I just haven't gotten around to making a website for it and
A logo?
a logo and tests and things like that. It's just like, that's like 5th on my list of important open source things that I haven't had time to work on in the last year or whatever. But yeah, I plan to do something with it eventually, if that makes sense. If you'd like to help with Packfile, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I guess I was just curious about that its story with related to people who are building build packs. Like, it seems like you could just write a pack file if it isn't necessarily like a thing where you want all the stuff in Go, but then you can also then migrate even to use it as a Go lib, right? So
Yeah.
there is a interesting path there. I just don't know how much you're pushing that, Stephen.
No one's using it for anything yet, but yes, like if you're writing a build pack in Go, Packfile is much more of an abstraction compared to what like libpack and packet provide, and like unifies the build plan entries and the layers together, and then lets you run everything in parallel if you want to. It does some fancy things. There are examples here if anyone's interested. Kind of see what it would look like. Like, what does an npm build pack in Go look like? If you're curious.
Do you still recommend the non-Go route, or you're just writing TOML file, or?
I think I like the YAML. If you're not going to do Go, I think I like the YAML file format the best, or that's what looks the nicest to me now.
But you just support everything, don't you?
Yeah. It supports YAML, TOML, and I don't know if it does. It support HCL? I don't think it does. No.
JSON?
JSON. Yeah, I think you can do JSON. I forget. Let me see what I did here. It's been so long.
It says TOML YAML Go. I feel like JSON is just really ugly for that, with just all the.
Couldn't add comments. Yeah.
Yeah, punctuation.
If people want to help out with that, I definitely need to get back to it eventually. It's just been a long time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have I guess talking about roadmap idea stuff, like just a page for the question that Sam asked of just this stuff, and also stuff that is provided by the community, like the Paketo things or Packfile, etc.
I agree. That makes sense. I think I want to add more tests to Packfile before I start advertising it. It's pretty, just threw a bunch of stuff together.
I'm also curious in terms of the future. So there's a pull request / RFC for Buildpack create, which currently, like, it seems to start off with Bash. But when I see the other options that were being considered were Go or Python, if it does go with that just be built on libcnb? I'm just asking in terms of like future. So I don't want to implement something and then move on to a different library, or is that not a, like, is there not any commitment on libcnb right now?
Oh, the create build pack has nothing to do with our commitment to libcnb. We just there's been a research study that is going on right now that just feedback that having to no-go is as a requirement to get started is potentially a tall order if you don't know it already. And so we just want to kind of minimize the barrier to entry. But a ton of stuff is being written in Go, obviously, for the project, and that's not changing anytime soon. And same with libcnb, we're not sunsetting that, or nothing's happening with that as far as maintenance and things with that project. As part of the future work of that RFC, I believe there was parts that is how we can extend it to support other languages as well. So just like having templates that you can have a thing where if you want to do it in Go and use libcnb, like there's a template that the create build pack could make a thing in Go. But I think Bash was an easier common denominator. Well, Joe's here, I guess, now, who wrote the RFC, so maybe he can expand on what I said.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds right. There's actually a PR implementing that RFC right now, and what it generates is extremely minimal. And that was the goal for the initial thing. In the future, we do want to support many languages, including Python, Go, and Bash. And I think the approach that we discussed was to have like template repositories that you would sort of start from. And some of those might use a libcnb, some of them might not, some of them, like I think the Paketo folks actually have multiple ways that they write their Go build packs. So there would be a lot of options in that case. But what's there right now is sort of like the zero option. It's just empty files, a little bit more than empty files.
Most of the complexity in the Buildpack API should be handled by the lifecycle, right? Like the clean API we're trying to provide is at the file system level for any language to be able to write, Buildpack layers that get turned into an image. So I wouldn't, it seems like you're very worried about like, oh, if we pick libcnb, or if we pick Packet, are we going to have to switch to something else later? But I think those are pretty lightweight bindings. They don't implement a lot of functionality on top of what the lifecycle is doing anyways. I think the goal is for that, the lifecycle provided by the Cloud Native Buildpacks project to really provide that nice API for developers. And then, language bindings are nice, but they shouldn't do a lot of complex stuff on top of it, if that makes sense. Ignoring my pack file thing. That's something else.
Does that answer your question, Sam?
Yeah, thanks.
I'd love to hear about, I guess, the use case and stuff for Buildpacks in Bloomberg. It doesn't have to be this meeting, but at some point. I know we've talked about that a little bit, but
Yeah, sure.
Just be interesting to see kind of where it kind of fits in and what advantages you see of using Buildpacks and kind of areas of concern for adoption.
Yeah, I can set something up maybe later. I'll reach out to you on Slack.
Cool.
Really interested in hearing that too. It'd be a great like Wednesday working group meeting. I can present to some people.
Yeah, Wednesday might be a bit late for him, but
Right.
potentially
Time
find a time slot to figure it out.
All right.
Is that it on agenda?
Yeah, that might be all we got. Thanks, everybody.